the problem is not always the white officer. In fact, I'm a victim of police brutality. And I remember when I was a long time ago, I was attacked by 3 police officers, and the one who set it off was a black officer. You know, he told me to put my hands up. We did nothing, absolutely nothing. You know, we were walking away from the scene because one officer was, he had something on his chest. He just had to get off. We seen it coming. We said, listen, officer, we just going to leave. You know, you having a bad day. You know, obviously, you just looking for trouble. So we left, and he called his backup for no reason, and they attacked a man who was just coming on the scene. And when they asked me to put my hands up, I did put my hands on the wall, and the black cop proceeded to hit me with a billy club. This was back in like 92, 93. Cops were from the 50th precinct. And anyway, you know, it was just a mess. You know, we all got arrested. But we're going to get into this show because this is a very serious show. You know, again, as I said, we are calling on the death of police brutality starting right now, you know. And I want you to know that this has nothing to do with physical death, but we want to kill the mindset and this supremacist attitude that puts the community at odds with those whom we expect to protect and serve. We are against the negative aspects of what has been admitted and what we've been victim to, which is police brutality. And before we get even into this, and it's very touching, you know, as you can probably tell by my voice, because so much is about to be laid upon you. You know, before we get into this, I want to go right into a speech in 2007 of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But before I do that, I want you to know that all of the representatives here on this show, everybody who's speaking on this show, represents themselves and not any business or organization. I don't want to hear nothing coming back to us later. Oh, the representative of such and such said such and such. That's not happening here. Everybody's on their own on this show, you know. And this show and all of our broadcasts are protected by the Son of Man. So keep that in mind. And if you'd like to help us out, I definitely have to mention this. If you'd like to help us out, go to WePay.com/GodsWater1. That's GODSWATER, the number 1, to make a donation after the show is over, you know, to help us to advance to another level, you know. And again, let's go right into the speech of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I want y'all to hear this so that we can set the tone. You know, it was given on the 12th anniversary of the Million Man March, after he had undergone a 14-hour surgery in efforts to save him from cancer, you know, and Allah blessed us, and the minister's with us. He's strong, you know, 78, powerful, and he can't be beat because Allah is backing him. And he gave us a speech, you know, and he talked about the racist authority within the police department and the sinful hands of our own people that dwell amongst us. And this is why it's important that you hear this speech. So if you just give me a second, I'm just going to play a little bit of it, you know, and take heed to what the minister is saying.
If this is frightening, God is willing to take up the fight for us. But if it is forced on us, we too have to fight. We cannot afford to lose another generation.
No, sir.
Since the 60s, we've lost 2. And we should say, like the members of the Jewish community, after the Holocaust, never again. I think we should let the world know that we're tired. We're not going to go out and do something stupid.
Go ahead.
I didn't give the order yet.
That's right.
A person who is being attacked has the right to use that degree of force consonant with the force that is coming against him or her to repel that force. If it is deadly force, we are allowed to respond with deadly force. This is not man talking. This is what God has said. So if you break into someone's house, you are allowed to literally kill the person that breaks into your home. That is a right, even the responsibility of every citizen. But the real question that has to be asked is, are we citizens? Are these constitutional guarantees there for you and me? Or the black or Hispanic or Native American or even poor white people?
Go ahead.
We have come to the position now to question this government. Let's stop a minute. Don't give them no more service until they answer the question. Don't ask me to fight no war. I'm asking you now. Are we citizens? And if we are, why the hell do we have to fight for the right to vote when no white person has to do that? So, if I'm not a citizen, then don't lie to me and make me think that I have these constitutional guarantees when in fact I don't have them at all. You put a little trick in your 13th Amendment. You gave us citizenship and then you said, however, if we're convicted of a crime.
That's what it said.
And now you're making it easy to convict black people with crime, to rob them of whatever guarantee you are trickily, deceitfully, demonically said you gave us. Every time we try to exercise the rights that you say we have, you find a way to destroy it. So America, if you don't want to correct yourself, it's all right. Then we, with God on our side, will have to fight for our own freedom, justice, and equality, and our own liberation in any way that we can. Now, I want to talk to my gangbanger family. You make it very difficult for me.
Go ahead, say that. Go ahead.
In the 60s, we knew who the enemy was. But in 2007, you're the enemy. It's black people killing black people. Black people robbing black people. Black people raping black people. I'm talking to you. Go ahead. You gangbangers know the principle of retaliation, but you are retaliating on the cheapest of principles. You are not retaliating because of oppression, injustice. You're retaliating because you don't like the color that your brother is wearing. You don't like the gang that he's a part of. You don't like the area of the city that he comes from, and he may be encroaching upon your drug market, so you retaliate. We are not talking about that. And I cannot call for retaliation in matters of the slain when you have become the number one slayers of yourself and your own people?
Go ahead.
The 60s were different. 50 years later, the context is different. God is retaliating in his own way. But this murder that is going on in our own community makes it difficult for me to make the right and necessary call for your justice. On any given Saturday night in cities across this nation, it's we killing each other. You make it easy for racist police to kill you because you are busy killing yourself. But if you stopped and became a community that respects the life of each other and will protect the life of each other and will protect your women and your girls. And if an enemy of that peace comes in among us, how can I do what is right by you while I watch what you are doing wrong by one another? Half of all murder victims in America are black men. And 9 out of 10 of those that are murdered by their own brother or sister. But I warn the government that at a certain time, if you don't do justice by us, God will retaliate in a way that he has never retaliated on any nation that has existed in the past. If you go and read your scriptures and see the plagues that God brought in the days of Noah, in the days of Lot, to the people of Ad and Thamud, to the people of Saleh, to the people of Moses, to the Roman Empire, to the Babylonian city, all that God has brought on them, he will bring on America. As it is written in the scripture, he will bring the blood of the righteous from Abel to Zechariah, even to this very day, on one generation.
Okay, Miss Queen.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? We've had a slight technical difficulty with the microphone. Working on this problem, but I want to thank you so much for being on the call. And how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Assalamu alaikum. Let me start there.
Alaikum salam, of course. I want to definitely thank you for calling in, and we'd like you to just, tell everyone about your situation and what happened to you. Give us a little bit about your background, and just go ahead and we'll have some callers call in if possible and ask some questions if need be, if we have time. But I want to give you the floor. Let's start from the beginning at the pub where you and your boyfriend went in and met with these officers.
Okay, not a problem. It was the summer of 2005, and it was in Queen Creek, Arizona. This area is known as a prominently white area. We didn't know it at the time, but the particular bar that we went into was filled with sheriffs. Like, I guess a sheriff frequented that particular bar. When we went in that bar, it got quiet. I mean, we had the whole 9 yards where the music stopped and we were just really out of place. I felt it immediately that we were out of place. I explained to the brother that I was with that we did not belong in that place at all. He assured me that everything was going to be okay. We were actually there with another couple, who stated to us that they knew the owners and that, we were going to be cool up in there. But I let her know that I wasn't even comfortable at that time because that was not even our neck of the woods. We were way off where we normally frequented.
Right.
So it was probably about 30 minutes into our night when a fight broke out or an altercation between the person that I was with and somebody else. Before I knew it, he was getting bum rushed by the bouncers and a few other people. I sort of got pushed out the way because it was really chaotic at that time. Next thing I know, they have him up, and I could see him like struggling, trying to breathe, trying to get away. He couldn't, so I guess he reached into his pocket where he had a pocket knife, and he went to grab it out. He had no other control of anything else. He was just trying to get free from them any way that he possibly could. As soon as he went into his pocket, I hear, he got the knife, so they're screaming that he got the knife, and the sheriff's running. It was like on point, on cue. They just run in and snatch him up and drag him out of the bar. Like I said, it was really chaotic at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We get out of the bar, and they already have him handcuffed and putting him into the patrol car. So I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be over. I'm going to go bail him out. We'll take it from there. It wasn't over. I was alone for one. So, like I said, I didn't know anybody at that time in this particular area that we were.
They were laughing at you. I was telling me as well that they were laughing as they were beating on him and things of that nature as he was in the car. And how many times?
They didn't actually beat on him until the situation where this one white woman laid her hands on me. So she kind of came up to me. Like I said, I was alone, so, I'm sort of chaotic myself. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm up in guards. I'm a little raged out at that time. I don't know really what's going on. Everything happened so quickly. So she comes up to me and snatches me up on my arm, saying something about she's with women and children and all this stuff, but I wasn't seeing that. So I turned around, and me and her got into an altercation where I ended up whooping on her. So as me and her are going at it, I'm on top of her. I have her on the floor, and she snatches my shirt. So as she's snatching my shirt off, she takes it completely off, and so I'm exposed. I'm not really paying attention to anything. I'm just fighting for my life at this time because, like I said, I was alone in a place where I shouldn't have really been. When we finally get broken up, I come up and I'm trying to find, my covering, trying to cover myself up. I look up and I realize that the police that arrested him are just standing there watching the altercation between me and this other individual. I rage out at that time because I'm realizing they're not doing anything more than just getting their thrill out of it. So I go off on them. As soon as I go off on them, he looks at me, he laughs, walks around the patrol car, yanks the brother out the car by his feet area, so hard you could hear his head slam on the concrete. That's when they start jumping on him. So they just completely just start jumping on him, and the more wild out I get, the more he gets jumped on. So I had to calm down at that time because I knew that what they were doing are actually whooping on him to get back at me because the stuff that I was telling them and, everything that was going on at that time. But, yeah, that's pretty much what happened is that they pulled him out of the car and he didn't even know what hit him. He didn't even know he was just sitting in the car. He had nothing to do with any of that. Like I said, it was the dealings with me, whatever I was going through at that time with this other individual. They had no, they weren't even trying to arrest me. I mean, they had nothing against me at that time except for getting a thrill out of what they were watching. So as soon as they
go ahead. When you saw
one
that
more time?
happening through your mind, what was going through your mind when you saw that happening to him?
I went wild out. Like right away, I was like, I just wanted to fight every single one of them. I mean, there was nothing I can do. I was being pulled back by another individual. One of the individuals that we went to that particular bar with ran up to me and she was like, "You're going to go to jail too. Calm down, calm down." But at that point, I couldn't calm down because I'm seeing this brother get stomped on. My eyes were witnessing something that I never imagined in my life that I would witness. And because I was in this bar that was completely white, it was a completely white bar, and I was the only colored person there, I already knew I was out of place. These individuals were cheering that on. So while this was going on, the people in the bar, they were throwing racial slurs at us. I mean, they were saying things that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm lost. I was lost at that point. There was really nothing at all I could do other than to scream and holler and, you know, but then I realized the more that I was lashing out with my mouth, the worse it was for him. And he had no control of it because he was handcuffed. They had him handcuffed at that time, too.
Mm-hmm. But you remember, you told me they said something specifically to him, one of the officers, of what they threatened to do to you. What was that?
Oh, yeah. After they put him into the patrol car, they started taunting him because they went through his wallet. So they snatched up his wallet, and they were going through his wallet. And they started pulling my picture out of his wallet. And there was a picture in there of me and my son. And so the police, the officer who arrested him was sitting in the car taunting him, telling him, "I'm going to make sure that I pay your wife a visit," and, you know, they didn't really know who I was at that point. All they knew is that I was the one that was on the outside of that patrol car. So they started to taunt him, telling him how they were going to, am I allowed to cuss on this show?
You can use the first letter if you want, if that'll make you comfortable.
Yeah, how they were going to F me good, and that my son was going to be his son, and just started taunting him, telling him things that were really not called for at that time. Mind you, this brother had already got beat down a good one, so he was, you know, fired up. All he could do was spit at him. So, you know, the more that this cop taunted him, the more frustrated he got, so he turned around and he spit in his face. Upon doing this, they took him to Arizona Mills Mall, which is in Arizona, in back of a Krispy Kreme, the Krispy Kreme donuts. It was nighttime. It was after 1:30 in the morning, shortly after 1:30 in the morning. And they started whooping on him, taking turns whooping on him for 2 hours in front of the Tempe police. He was trying his... Go ahead.
That was in another county that happened? Like they moved him to another county and they beat him for 2 hours?
For 2 hours. See, we were in Queen Creek. So Queen Creek was probably, I'm not too sure, maybe 15, 20 minutes away from Tempe, something like that. I mean, it's a drive. You have to drive there. So I'm thinking they're going to take him to precinct because that's what they should have done. You know, after they left the bar, he should have went straight over and been booked, but that's not what happened. They made that stop. So I guess what they did was they turned around and they called the Tempe department, or maybe the Tempe department was there already. I'm not too sure. I wasn't there. All I know is that he said that he's seen the Tempe department there as well, just hanging out, watching this. So as the sheriffs were whooping on him for all these 2 hours and some change, they were watching it. So they were aware of what was going on. And these two police, sheriffs just took turns on him and messed him up pretty bad. I was at this time calling. Go ahead.
Hold that thought. I just want to interject because that something like that happened to me a long time ago, but not at that level, where you can be in one county and they'll let you go to another county, and that the cops in the next county will be waiting for you. And you would think whatever you just went through is over, but that's not the case. When you get to the next county, it just escalates. And this is what the sister is expressing to you who are listening, is that, they expect it to be, transferred or, to another county, and it just got worse. So go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so here I am making these phone calls. I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and bail him out. So I had already started to make the phone calls to see where he was, and everybody kept telling me, he's not here. I don't have anybody by that name. I kept telling the people on the phone, that's impossible. I'm sure you got some sort of call-in that they have him. I started telling them, well, they was whooping on him at the bar, so you really need to find out where he's at, because at this time I didn't know what was going on. I'm just trying to, because that's not a normal thing. Normally, they get booked and you take care of your business, and that's how it should have been. But it went all the way until about somewhere after 4:30 when he finally got booked into the jail down there. So by the time what Arizona does, Joe Arpaio, I know I spoke to you a little bit about who Joe Arpaio is.
Right.
He's
the sheriff, right?
Yes. He likes to put. Excuse me.
Remember you mentioned that he had said that he was compared to the KKK.
Yes, and he was proud of that.
Well, we have an audio of that, and I really want to play this, because the people need to hear this. Just let the people hear this sheriff brag about being compared with the KKK. Hold on.
How do you react to that? Well, they called you KKK. They didn't. I think it's honor, right?
Well,
it means we're doing something.
Just so the right people are doing
it. Means
it.
We're doing it.
Now, that was Sheriff Arpaio. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right. And that was in CNN. That was a CNN report in 2007 where he bragged about being compared as if he was doing a great thing. So go on. I just wanted to paint the picture clearer to our listeners as to what we're dealing with.
Yes. So this is his posse, actually, that did this to this brother and ruined our life. Let me just say that, because, they came in and pretty much destroyed everything after that. And this is what they do out there. This is a normal thing, and a lot of people have came across their wrath, and they continue to do it, and they continue to do it, and they get away with it because they turn around and they blame these brothers and say that it was aggravated assault against a police officer. So they're in cahoots with the actual judges, too, so the actual judges just go along with it. You see what I'm saying? So
it's always a conglomerate. It always is. But I'm sorry to cut you off, sis, but we're pressed for time right now because we had some technical difficulties in the beginning. I want to go right to the point where you were attacked in your home with your son. Let's go to that after what happened with you and your ex-boyfriend, and let's go right to that. All right.
So after this, this took a toll on us. So we were just messed up after this. He had a lot of issues. He started getting seizures, and we knew that was probably had to do with what happened with the sheriff and all that one summer night. So it was back in 2006, which wasn't that long after this took place, we had got into an altercation, and we were pretty much done with me and him. We were done. And he had actually put his hands around my throat. So in him doing that, I slipped out and I went off. So I wasn't going to allow him to put his hands on me. So we got into an altercation, but it was me pretty much whooping on him. He didn't hit me back. He didn't do any of that. So the neighbors thought it was the other way around, so they called the police. As this is happening, the police come up, and he's actually bloody. He has his face is all bloody, and so when he opens the door, he tells the police, you know what, you can go, everything is cool, there ain't nothing going on, and goes to shut the door. As he's shutting the door, they kick my door in. So when they kicked my door, and they put a big hole in my wall, because that's how hard they kicked the door, and they snatched him out. Mind you, he already had issues with the police before, so, he was up in guard. So I guess a struggle occurred between the two of them, and next thing you know, he's being tased. So there's like two of them running up, tasing him. He's already laid out on the porch, laid out, not even moving. I thought he was dead. That's how laid out he was. Then they start jumping on him and start whooping on him again. I start going off. I'm like, you know what, he's dead. You guys kill him, because that's all I could see. He was not even moving. The more they tased him, he was just laid out. As I'm screaming and saying this, my older son gets up, because it's in the middle of the night, so this is occurring at nighttime. My older son gets up, and he comes out, and he's like, wild out too. So I guess they thought my older son was an adult because he was taller than me, but he was only a child at the time, still 14. So I'm sitting here screaming at them, you know what, stop, just stop, leave him alone. When my son comes out and says the same thing, they get up in arms and start to charge us. So we're in the house when this is happening, and he's outside on the porch. I snatched my son up. This police is coming after us with this taser gun. All I can do is protect my son. So I push him over the couch, and I lay on top of him, and I'm like, stop, he's a child, what are you doing? I'm just going off. Next thing I know, I had to protect my son the only way that I could, so I kicked this sheriff. Next thing I know, he's trying to jump on us. Through the grace of Allah, his partner comes in through my front door and snatches him off of us. At this time, I got enough time to get up, to push my son, towards the back of the house. And I'm still going off. This brother is laid out on the floor. I think he's dead. At this time, I'm thinking he's dead, because all I seen is them just continue to tase him and beat on him while he was laid out. He wasn't even moving. So they're stomping on his head. I mean, he got the blood all over my porch. They're hog-tying him at this time. And I lived upstairs. My condo was upstairs, so they're hog-tying him and dragging him down the steps, where he's still hitting his face, flying down the steps. I'm trying to videotape this at this time. I snatched my phone, and I'm trying to videotape this entire scene, which I did get some of it on videotape, like I told you. But this is pretty much what happened again shortly after this first incident that I told you about,
right,
with the same sheriff.
Sheriff and the same posse. Well, let me just also
the same posse.
Let me give more information as to what's going on in Arizona. Of course, we know the main funnel of support for that state comes out of the prison industry complex. And according to a report I read, they had a population of increase in tenfold from 3,377 inmates in June of 1979 to 40,477 inmates in June of 2010. Their growth rate exceeded that of every other Western state between the year 2000 and 2008. One in every 170 Arizonans was imprisoned in 2008 compared to 1 in every 749 in 1980. We are talking about a major problem in Arizona. I'm from New York, and when I see numbers like that, it just makes me think, like, what is going on down there? That is ridiculous. The cost to run an operation like that is over $640 million. That's probably just for the beds that the prison inmates have to sleep on. But forget about that. We're talking. You can never, in my opinion, you can't even compare that to the cost in the lives and the torment that I heard just coming from this one story. $1 billion could not erase the pain that our sister has gone through right now. So, I just want to thank you for sharing that story with us, sister. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us with regards to what is going on in Arizona that you may be aware of that is happening?
Well, Arizona actually, it's because that they are private prisons, so they're privately owned prisons. Private, all of that is private. They have no other forms of making money other than on making money through those that they arrest. So this is why there is so much issue right now in Arizona, and this Joe Arpaio is getting away with it. I mean, if you really deeply go into the background and what is going on in Arizona, it will shock you. And, a lot of people are scared of him. I don't understand why they're scared of him. He keeps getting away with a lot. This is not the only story. My story is not the only story that has happened in Arizona. There is many. I mean, this posse of his, if you go on and you look on even on the immigration, because a lot of this has to do with, because they hate Mexicans. So right now the war is between this posse and Mexicans. So, I mean, this is why that bill was passed, and this is, that Janet Brewer passed that one bill, that immigration bill. Right. So, I mean, this is really, really deep, and a lot of, brothers have died in Arizona's county jails. They cover it up. They get away with it. It's a continuous issue, a continuous problem. They've hired those Minutemen to go into people's homes and, make it look like the sheriffs don't have anything to do with it. It's all connected. They're all connected. So, I mean, this is a serious problem going on.
It is. It's very serious. And we remember when Public Enemy came out with their song about Arizona, and they spoke deeply into it, and their video was banned from MTV. And they were talking about how Arizona's police department was ruthless, and that, to think that this is still happening today and that this sheriff is still calling shots, bragging about being compared to the KKK is just, it's not surprising to me. This is why we're calling on the death of police brutality. It's a worldwide call. It must end. This is why it's imperative that you, brothers and sisters, are strengthened by this conversation, not scared. We're not here to put fear in you, but we're here to let you know that you can do something about this. You have to understand that you are greater than what you would perceive. No army can come against the righteous, not one. There's so many cases and marks in history going from Hannibal to the Haitian Revolution that show us that if we stand up, we can actually defeat any force that comes against us. And all of you police officers who are good and who are doing the right thing within the police force, trying your hardest to make a change, you are the heroes, but you're not doing enough. We are still losing people on the street. And, sister, I want to thank you so much, Sister Queen, for sharing this story with us. But we have to go to our next guest. And I'm going to have to give our next guest a call and get him on the line. And we may be able to do a part 2 of this series and have you come back on with us and speak to us again. Would you like that?
Sure. Anything that would help this situation to come to an end.
Yes, and we're we're praying for you to overcome the wounds that this case has brought upon you and your family. You know, our prayers are with you and all those who are suffering from police brutality. And, you know, we're going to do something about it through shows like this and activating the spirits of the people through our testimonies. Okay, Brother Forrest?
Yes, sir.
All right, praise be to Allah. We have our Brother Forrest on the line right now. And brothers and sisters, let's welcome Brother Forrest to the Sword of Resurrection show. He's bringing his Sword of Resurrection to you, brothers and sisters, in efforts to help shed some light on this topic that we have here, the death of police brutality, 2012. Brother Forrest, what brings you to our show, my brother?
First of all, let me say assalamu alaikum, brother. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be on the show and with the listening audience. And I'm here because, brother, basically because you invited me to share some information that we teach on in the Nation of Islam from time to time, very frequently to each other as brothers. I want to talk about, hopefully, about the reality of police brutality and how to be your best to circumvent being in that kind of situation. And then I want to talk about the real facts of what's going on in the black community that sanction police, white police in their own minds, and black police with white minds, that they can come into the community and abuse it. So where would you like me to start, brother?
Well, brother, we definitely want to go right to the topic at hand that's really prevalent in the news right now, which is stop and frisk. You know, what are the things that the police are looking for? And why is it that, or rather, can you paint a picture into the minds of the people who are listening with regards to the reason why our people do not adjust? In other words, here we have stop and frisk. We're being profiled. Our people are dressing a certain type of way in the name of hip-hop or whatever the culture is. And that's attracting these officers who are looking for a specific profile. It's not always that you're black. It's also how you dress. But why is it, in your own words, that our people don't seem to adjust to it and evade the situation?
Brother Philip?
Yes.
I kind of lost you there for a minute. Well, brother, I'm going to say like this. This program may be perceived as what you're wearing, but it's not. The whole thing is this, brother, is the police department want to control your mind. In other words, if you're afraid all the time and you can't walk down the street, you're apprehensive, this has a psychological effect on you as you grow. So they're attacking our young men and women now so they can instill fear upon them. Then they put them in a database that they claim that, you know, whether you have a record or not, because you got stopped and frisked, they put you in a database. Now, we already have one incident happen in New York City where a young man was on his way to college, had a scholarship, and then it popped up that he had been involved in an arrest, but he was not arrested, he was stopped and frisked. So you want to give somebody a police record so they cannot further their career professionally, even further their, you can't go to college now without special compensation if you had a past felony. So they caused this young man scholarship to be lost. His mother protested and she sued the city. I believe she won. I'm got to look into it. So this program is, again, it's a program of fear. It's a program of documenting or giving our young people, black and Latino brothers and sisters, a record from day one.
And that's another form of police brutality. Police brutality is not limited to being beaten with batons or shot. They can shoot down your career, as Brother Forrest just mentioned, by giving you a record, as in the case with the young boy who was singing. I don't know if you heard about this one, but there was a young boy who sang a rap song from LMF or whatever the name of the group was, and it was involving sex. And he sang the song to another young little girl, and now he has a sexually related charge on his record. So he also will be affected when he goes to college. Once he chooses college, he'll be affected because he repeated a song that shouldn't have been on the airwaves at all. So it goes right back to the other problem, which is black-on-black crime and our own inability to teach our children what's right from wrong. Let's get into that a little bit. How do you address that?
Well, brother, I want to go back 1 second because, we have to bear witness to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We have a lesson, English lesson C1, in which one part of it says, why does he still fear the devil now that he's a grown man?
Right.
The answer is because he put fear in him when he was a little boy and taught him to eat the wrong food. This is what they're doing. This is Willie Lynch on a different level.
Right.
If parents are not understanding this, then they are doing their children a disservice by not arming them. The entree into the black community for the police department is how we treat ourselves. This year alone, since January 1st, 2012, 29 black and Latino people were killed by police or by security agencies. In other words, somebody who's on citizen patrol, like in the Trayvon Martin case, or just straight up police shooting unarmed people. That we've had a lot of instances since January 23. However, since January we've had over 300 black-on-black murders nationwide. So we get up in arms, we go protest, and we go stand in line, and we create T-shirts, we create slogans, we create websites to talk about the police brutality. But yet, in New York City, I witnessed and heard other people witness that the person who shot the brother or the sister who's laying in the street is standing right there when the police come. That's the nerve that they have because people are not going to say anything. And we don't start being civilized, which is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, and Minister Farrakhan teaches us today. If we don't start acting like civilized people, then that gives them the right to treat us like animals in their mind. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead, brother. You can finish that statement.
So we're bringing a lot of this stuff onto it. Just as in the opening of your show, when you played the minister's speech from 2007, he was talking to the to the gangbangers. I don't want to call any particular gang because he was talking to all gangbangers.
Right.
And he said, "You're making it hard for me to do what I got to do because we're killing each other wholesale." But we're not only just killing each other, we're killing each other, and we're telling the white community, we're telling any other community, it's okay for a black man, black woman to kill each other. We're not going to say nothing about that. But don't let a white person kill us or somebody who has authority, such as a police officer, whether he be black, white, or Latino, kill us. We're going to go raise hell. We have to stop this, brother, right now. We have to come to reality. Charity begins at home. Self-preservation begins at home. When we at home begin to take care of our community and say, listen, brothers, sisters, whoever, you can't do this anymore. You can't rape our women. You can't mug our elderly. And you can't kill each other based on you want somebody's sneakers or some nonsense like that. And when we put our foot down as a community, then we're going to see some changes on how the so-called greater society treats us. But that's the crux of the whole matter. We are like an oxymoron. We are a contradiction of terms. We want to protest for the white murder, but it seems like we basically applauding the black murder. That's not conducive for a guy who grows up in the suburbs, who grows up in the white community, who's already being programmed that black people are animals. It's not conducive for that person to have any kind of sympathy towards you when they're dealing with you in a law enforcement situation. It may be, sometimes, I tell people all the time when you deal with the police, the number one thing is that police officer wants to go home. I mean, really, it comes down to basic instinct of survival. So he wants to go home, but he's been programmed ever since he's been in the womb that black people are animals. They'll cut you, they'll kill you, they shoot you, see how they do each other. And then he'll look at the statistics and see that out of the, just for instance, brother, between 8,000 and 9,000 black people are murdered every year in the United States. 93% of those murders are done by black people. That means in the last 10 years, on those averages, on the low end, we've had 80,000 murders. On the high end, 90,000 murders. In Vietnam, over 13 years of conflict, only 58,600 soldiers got killed. 13% of those were black. In the last 10 years in Afghanistan, only 6,400 soldiers were killed. We are the number one killing machine of black people in America is ourselves. And we have to address this issue because the numbers bail us out. That what the minister was teaching in 2007, what he's been teaching ever since and before then, is that we are our greatest impediment to our success.
We can't move forward to do something about it.
Now, let's go into, we're talking about the problem. Let's talk about some of the possible solutions, because I'm going to be honest with you, brother, from Brother Forrest-Muhammad's observation, these solutions may not even work in New York City. New York City has New York City police officers have been training with the Israeli police and the Mossad. The Mossad, prior to the end of segregation in South Africa, were training with the South Afrikaner police, who are masters of modern-day Willie Lynch. So they taught them how to control large crowds of people and the methodology that they use. Now the NYPD is over there learning the same methodology and bringing it back to New York City. That's where you get the stop and fish from. If you have, like I said, again, if I start off in the beginning, if you have a population of young people who are being taught from basically from the womb to fear the white officer and the black officer with the white mind. And I want to say something to my black brothers who are police officers across the world. That's your nephew, that's your niece, that's your cousin, that's your grandfather, that's your grandmother that you're shooting at or that you're stomping out when you in a hot situation, a heated situation. So don't forget where you come from, because one day you have to answer for that which you have done against your own community. That's now, with that being said, how should young men deal with the police? Every generation, brother, has his own dress code. When I was a young man, we wore lead jeans, we wore white sneakers, and usually Chuck Taylors. In New York City, we wore mock necks and quarter-filled coats and leather bombers, and that was the dress code of the day. And that dress code day to get you arrested. It hasn't changed. They just, okay, so now brothers have their pants sagging and they call it swagger. I'm not going to, this show is not about the dress code. It's about the reality. When you're approached by the police, the first thing you should do is take your hands out your pockets and put them in front of you. The next thing you should do is keep calm and talk in a calm, respectful manner. In the Nation of Islam, we are taught to say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. You don't call a cop, you say, Mr. Officer or Mrs. Officer. How can I serve you? What did I do? You have a right to know why they stopped you. Now, I'm going to tell you like this. This is to my brothers who are in the pharmaceutical business. I never understood why they don't have a lawyer on retainer. But everybody, I want every black man and child to go to your local, every town has a local legal aid society and get their business card. And when the police stop, you pull out the card and say, this is my lawyer. I need to call my lawyer right now. That puts the police back. That puts them back a minute. So, okay, I'm not dealing with the average cat here. Why does this cat have a lawyer's card in his pocket? Why does he have a lawyer on retainer? And with legal aid, you don't have to have money to put them on retainer. You just you'll come there and say, if I'm in a situation, I'd like to be able to call you, and they will do that for you. For those of us who have the funds, it's always good to have your own private lawyer, and you let your lawyer do your talking. The moment you say, I want a lawyer, that's the moment you shut up. Do not say another word.
That's right.
You do have to tell them your name, address, and telephone number. You are required, Social Security number. You are required by law to do that. Also by law, you're required to have an ID. Since the Patriot Act, if you don't have an ID on you, they can lock you up for a year. Someplace in Guantanamo or any place they designate to lock you up and hold you without any notification to your family. So please, young brothers, sisters, don't leave the house without your ID. Always have a picture photograph ID. And in New York City, I want to deal with New York City because that's where I live at. They have a non-driver's license ID that's issued by the state of New York. I think every state has that now. Go get yourself, if you're under 18 or under 17, whatever age it is in your particular area of the country that you need a driver's license, then go get a non-driver's license state-issue ID. So when they ask you for ID, you got that. Have your high school ID on you if you go to high school. Have your college ID if you go to college. Because when they ask you for ID and you don't have it today, they can detain you. So, and then they can claim you are who you are. So now what they do is they run your prints. That can take, as long as they want it to take, up to 48 hours. You know, the days of going to being locked up and them having 72 hours to bring a charge against you or they got to release you, those days are over. And we have to understand that legally they're over. The Patriot Act ended all that.
That's right.
So now back to dealing with the police. So now you get stopped, you're nice, you're courteous. You may not feel like being nice and courteous. I'm talking to my young people because you're kind of heated, you know, and rightly so. You know, you might be in your right to be heated.
Trayvon Martin, you know, had the young lady just got murdered, gunned down. She was driving, and she allegedly stole a car, and she ended up driving, crashing her vehicle, and then she got shot in the chest by the cop. The car was stopped. She wasn't going anywhere. And here's the thing. Not only are they fearful of what the police may do, who may not be trained right or have racist intentions or whatever that is the case, they're also fearful of the repercussions from the media. Like in the case where with this lady, she crashes. The facts are the lady crashes the car and then she gets shot by a cop, right, after she's down. But the media's report came out, and they laced the entire report with her rap sheet. So they demonize her, and that takes people away from the facts of the actual incident, which makes it very.
I mean, this is for lack of a better terminology, this is the military-industrial complex, which you heard. Those of us who live in New York, we've heard Michael Bloomberg say all the time, "I have my own army." New York City has over 35,000 police officers on the payroll. It has a standing army that's bigger than some countries.
That's right.
So when you're dealing with the military-industrial complex, they control the media, because he controls the media, controls what the people think. Yeah, they demonize them, just like they did my young brothers from Rice High School about 20 years ago or more. I'm a graduate of Rice High School, and I felt bad because when those brothers got caught up in the park, I just couldn't believe in my heart that 4 young men who went to Rice High School, 5 young men would rape a woman. Now, they might have been in the park having fun and bothering people, but they didn't do the rape. But even though the police knew they didn't do the rape, these young men went to jail. And even when they knew that, when they got more evidence to prove, because the first thing they should have stopped right there was what? The first part of the case was there was no semen that matched them. That's impossible for young men who are wilding out to rape a woman and clean up every ounce of semen except for one person who was not in the group. So right there, that would prove their innocence. So you have to know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a system that is diametrically opposed to your being safe and you being home free. Whatever. Right. So that's why you have to learn how to keep your mouth quiet. Most brothers that end up prison who are innocent because they talk too much. They get to the police station and they ask them a question and they just lead them into where they want to go. The police are masters at interrogation and getting a confession out of you because they don't talk to you for 24 hours. No
you got to keep shut. You got to be quiet.
You got to be quiet. You got to shut your mouth no matter what they say. If they kick you, if they spit on you, if they threaten you, they talk about your mama. Don't worry about all that because at the end of the day, at the end of this equation, you want to go home. And your best bet of getting home is to having a lawyer. And let your lawyer do the talking. And let your lawyer handle that end of the situation. And, you know, that's why I want to tell my young brothers, since I watch in New York City how young people, you know, they kill me though. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, brother. I'm in a bit of I'm perplexed because the same young man who pulls out his 9mm to shoot up the block when a 145-pound, 5'6" white dude with a uniform comes on comes on the neighborhood on the scene, he runs. I don't understand that. I mean, I'm tired of these cowards shooting up my neighborhood. I'm tired of them shooting children. They don't even have the decency to go to a weapons range and learn how to use their weapon, how to keep it clean. So when they shoot everybody except for the target. So we end up with, how many babies have been killed in the last 2 or 3 years in New York City? How many mothers or little children sitting in their home watching TV or just sitting in their room been hit by a stray bullet? So
I mean, let's talk about that. Like 68-year-old Kenneth Chamberlain was gunned down by police while he was that responded to a life call alert, and that life call alert went out. Then the cops respond. He says, "I'm fine." They still break the door down and they kill him. They taser him, then they shoot him. And when that happens, that gives way to all sorts of media. Of course, media picks it up, and the autopsy reveals later that he was not holding a weapon when he was shot, and that he wasn't even facing the police officers. This is a major problem that we have with the police department. We're going to take a
man, brother. We as a community really have to take a look back at how we're raising our children. At the Stop the Killing rally in Mount Vernon, it was put on by Monson 7 and Brother Student Minister Forrest-Muhammad represented the teachers very well. One of the sisters was talking about being a mother and how her son's room is not his room. He has a room in her house. So she checks his room, as she's supposed to. Mr. Farrakhan said back in the 90s, some of these mothers are crying, but they crocodile tears when their sons get murdered because they knew their sons were living a life that was not legal, but they were enjoying the fruits of their labor, so they kept their mouths quiet. But when their son gets gunned down, now they want to fall all over the cauldron and make a scene. We have to stop being fake because the rest of the world can see how fake we are.
Right.
We have to start really understanding that if you don't check your child at the door of your house, then what you're doing is open up the door to the prison or the gateway to the cemetery for your child. Because if your son is coming in with $500 sneakers on and he don't even have a job that you know of, then you need to check that. Your daughter's coming in with True Religion jeans, and she don't have a True Religion job. You need to check it. I'm a father of 3. My eldest is 19. She's in college. My son is 15, going to soon be 16. He's sophomore in high school. He's ending his sophomore year, and I have an 11-year-old. But, I'm constantly on my son's case because it's an all-out war against young black men. But I'm also with my daughters, making sure that they are respecting themselves and making other people respect them and not falling prey to some guy who, he's got the nicest car, he's got this and got that. Well, how did he get it? How does an 18-year-old get a 600 SEL Mercedes-Benz? It's a $190,000 car, and he doesn't have any job or degree or owns a company that they can tell. So why we keep playing games? Somebody in the community has to pull that young man to the side and say, young man, you need to stop what you're doing. So what you're doing is so visible. If it's visible to me, and I'm not looking for trouble, then how you think you're not visible to the police their profession is to look for trouble?
And let's look at the side of that, Brother Forrest.
What's up?
What do you say to the drug dealer who can't seem to find a way to leave the game, understands what you're talking about, but just can't find his way out?
You know what's so funny, brother? You know the one thing you can do in America that no matter how many felonies you have, no matter what you did in your life, that they can't stop you from doing? Do you know the one thing what it is?
What's that?
You can go into business. You can form a corporation, take $100, $140, and start a business, a service business that you see a lack in the community, and take your funds that you've made illegally and start something. Don't start big. Don't open up $1 million hotel. because the RS is going to come and get you. I'm not trying to give brothers a blueprint of money. I'm trying to give them a blueprint of how to get out of the game. You know our brother Gregory Muhammad, he was in the Rikers Island system teaching this very principle to the young inmates. And he was there for 6 months, and he was having great success. But the prison ended it because, of course, that's not what they want. They want our children coming back and going back again. So that's why you lose your citizenship. You lose all your rights to vote. You have this permanent record. Nobody wants to hire you. The society treats you like dirt. So you already felt like dirt before you started doing drugs. Now you feel even dirtier because now you can't even go get a job even as a bus driver or a janitor because of a felony. Well,
wow.
You can open up a business.
That's right.
You can analyze. While my brothers are locked up, I don't know if the brothers are locked down or listening. While you locked down, brother, don't be locked down. Look up. Open up a book. Look at the needs of your community. You know the needs of your community. Open up a business when you get out. It's $140 in New York State to incorporate. $140, which leads to a road of endless possibilities of financial gain. So analyze what the community needs. See if you have the skills to deliver that, or can you team up with some people to deliver that, and go into business. Because you're already a businessman anyway. It's just your product is lethal. You know,
yes.
It's not lethal to you because it's going to make you either wind up in jail, shot in the street, or worse. The worst thing that can happen is what happened to our brother, may Allah always be pleased with him, Brother Larry Davis, who was working for the police, wanted to get out. They came to his house to assassinate him. He is the original Jason Bourne, the real Jason Bourne, because those of us in New York City who grew up in the projects know that the project hallways are tight, and when the police send their best to get you, and you in the project apartment, he didn't go out the window. He went out the front door, and he went out alive. You know, of course, when he had to finally surrender himself because they had an all-out manhunt for him, they paralyzed somebody that's in jail, and finally they had him shanked. And so our brother is not here with us anymore. I say that to the brothers who are in that street life. Brothers, nothing in that street life, nobody, somebody show me. I'm 51 years old. I've had brothers do it. I had family members do it. I've studied it. There's nobody who leaves that game unscathed. So why would you want to play that game? It's a major price to play that game. It's either loss of your life, loss of a family member's life, your mother, your sisters, they'll kidnap them. The other end of the street kidnaps your mother for ransom money. They rape your woman. They rape your girl. They do all kinds of. It's a crazy life. Once you come into the devil's playground, that's his playground. He invented it. You know, the Rockefellers, the Kennedys, biggest drug dealers ever. We don't get the same treatment that they get when they come out the game. Rockefeller came out the game. The Kennedys, well, some say they're still in the game, but they come out the game and they have a clean reputation. They have Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Center. Well, you show me like the great names of, well, I shouldn't say the great names, the big names of the drug gangs in New York City or the inner city. Where are their institutions? Now that they're retired or dead and buried. I don't see no Nicky Barnes institution, or I don't see I'm trying to think, Batman, you know, some of the nefarious characters we have in New York who are street-led, and they don't have institutions like the Rockefellers or the Kennedys. You won't see any of their sons become president of the United States because they'll never let it happen. So we have to begin to realize, as we deal with our young people, we have to give them alternatives. And if you don't know about business, there's somebody in your community who does know about business. They're free. The Urban League offers free workshops, computer, business acumen, how to write a business plan. Even in New York City, Columbia University allows you to come to learn how to write a business plan. They don't ask you about your criminal record or anything like that. It's open to the general public. So you can learn how to write a business plan, how the corporate structure works. Most of our young people who are hustlers, as we call them, already know how to work. They just don't know how to work legally, and that's the sad part that we have to stop.
I think you got the point on that. and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to go to our next guest as we're running out of time. And I want to thank you so much for being on the line. We have to do a part 2. This is why this was a 2-hour special, because I knew we needed as much time as possible, but I really need to give the last 20 minutes to our next guest, which is Empress-Chi. I have to contact her ASAP. So, brother, I want to thank you once again for being on the Sword of Resurrection show. And, you did an excellent job. I'm sure everyone got the point. We can call for the death of police brutality, but even more so, we need to call for the end of black-on-black violence, and that has to stop even more so. And thank you so much, Brother Forrest, for being with us.
Thank you, brother. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your show. Keep up the good work, brother. Keep giving information out to the community. And as I came, I'll leave you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, brother. Now, everyone, we are going to go on a slight break while I make a phone call for our next guest, which is Empress-Chi. Stand by, and Empress, get ready for that phone call. Okay, what we want to do is let's go right into this case. Let's just talk about what's going on with, and what she's here, Sister Empress, by the way, she's the founder of the Million Woman March. I mentioned that earlier, and I hope everyone heard. Why are women giving birth in chains? Let's talk about that.
Okay. Let me just say that, of course, so first let me greet your audience and say Ma'ad Hotep to everyone, meaning not only are we talking about justice, but, of course, peace. But we always say there can be no real peace until there's justice. And this issue, this situation is one where we have to pay a lot more closer attention, because it is a known fact that the prison system is really now making certain that it can incarcerate as many women now as it possibly can. The system has realized that while it has always wanted our men and always targeted our men, they now know that they can get 2 birds with 1 stone, for lack of a better saying, in that if they get our women, 9 times out of 10, they're going to automatically get access to our children, you see. So with that said, of course we know that crack cocaine came into the black communities. For those who may have taken the time to do a little bit of studying, or you may have been directly associated with it in some way, shape, fashion, or form, because most of us were, through our family, through friends, associates, or what have you. But the fact of the matter is we pretty much feel safe in saying that the development of crack cocaine and certainly the implementation in black communities was not only geared specifically or more so to our women. And we say that because research has shown that the effects that crack cocaine had on our females in comparison to our brothers was not only very different, but it opened up the floodgate for there to be continual drug use, because the crack cocaine had a different effect on the DNA and the chromosome system. And so when women were carrying children, and then women who would have children in the future, those children, a lot of them would have some forms of defect or some other kind of maladies as a result of the sister of the woman utilizing crack cocaine. So what that means is it also escalated the increase of our women being incarcerated, because again, research is showing that a lot of the women were incarcerated not for felonies, but in fact for crimes related to money, getting money, drug-related, and of course, again, getting money. So with that said, we now are looking at women who, in fact, are pregnant when they enter into these penal systems, these places, and 36 states in the United States allow women to be shackled. And what I mean by shackled, their hands and feet are bounded to a table, to a gurney, or what have you, and this is how they are dealing with their delivery. So we're dealing with a double-edged sword here. We're dealing with a woman who has to undergo a certain type of pain in such a way to be shackled down, then to have the child, in most cases, taken away from her. So, it behooves our community to really understand some real things that's going on that is now affecting our women and girls.
This is a shame. Can you hear me now, sister? How does it sound?
Yes, I can
All
hear
right.
you much better.
So what our sister is telling us is that these women are actually being arrested, and stats say it's a great number of black women who will actually get arrested and they're pregnant. And this story that was recently surfaced of a 17-year-old girl named Cora Fletcher. She was charged with a retail theft. After a year, she missed a court date. She ended up in jail. She was 8 months pregnant. She was shackled, and her baby was born as she was tied to the bed. And according to the report, I believe that the baby was born dead.
That's right.
And this is not an isolated situation. This is why we're calling on the death of police brutality, because it's gotten to a point where thousands of women are being arrested as they're pregnant and have to go through similar situations where their babies are being born in prison. Why do you have to shackle a woman who is having a baby? She's not going nowhere. We're dealing with a very wicked society, and, I just want you to know that there are great sisters like Sister Empress-Chi who are on the front lines, who are here for you, sisters, and brothers like myself who are here for you. And we're going to work hard with everything that we have that Allah has blessed us with. Almighty God, who comes in many names. We know him to be one God, but he has all blessed us with the might, the talent, and the ability. Now all we have to do is believe and say, yes, we can overcome the brutality that we have in our own communities, as well as from those outside of our communities who aim their wickedness at us in this form and other forms. But sister, when you read that report, and what went through your mind as a black woman?
Well, I was very familiar with this situation because, as you know, Brother Philip, we have been working with issues pertaining to our women and girls specifically for the past 10 years, but really ever since the Million Woman March. But we really upped it in these last 10 to 12 years because we saw how the numbers were spiking, how this thing was really increasing. And then when we realized that, the prison system, that's one, the prison industrialized complex, again, we have to realize that more prisons are being built, more juvenile prisons are being built as well, you see.
Right.
And the fact that our girls now, before when we would hear reports about fighting in the schools, pretty much you could kind of say or think that it would be males. Well, now that's changed. Now it is very likely that you will hear reports, perhaps even sooner, at least in Philadelphia, of when it comes to fighting, gang-related fighting in school, it is probably the sisters now, the females. So, again, this tells us that the roadmap has already been laid out for our girls to begin to enter into the juvenile system. And so we've got to really pay a little more closer attention about what's happening with our daughters, because any people, especially an enemy, knows that if they can get the women, the female of that race, of that group, then they have a good chance of capturing the entire group of people. Why?
Right.
Because the production is coming from the woman. And 9 times out of 10, if for whatever reason something happens to the brother, to the man, well, historically, sisters have, in fact, held it down. Well, now they're making certain that they not only continue to keep their foot on our brothers' necks, but now they're also making certain that they take the other foot and keep it on our sisters.
So it's an attack on the entire black family in a sense, and it's sad because the reality is a lot of brothers felt the sting of our women turning on us, having this false sense of superiority and usurp the man's authority in the house, and whereas the black family was separated, the woman put on top with a bling bling, and now she has handcuffs as a bling bling. while she's pregnant. And this is serious. Now, there was a class action suit by Fletcher, who was the sister who was actually had the child while she was shackled down, both of her legs, baby born dead. There was a class action suit where 80 female prisoners and detainees all said that something similar had happened to them. And then they got awarded $4.1 million according to this article. Now, $4.1 million, I don't see how that could be even compensation. Each of them got between $5,000 and $45,000 according to this article that was written by Shadabi Walshi. I can't really pronounce that. We're very sorry if I mispronounced your name. But I commend you for writing the article and for everybody that's on the front line doing something about the situation.
Let me also stress that there are several things that we need to, again, be a bit more cognizant of, and it's this. That article really came out of Britain, BBC, or one of those other networks. And the fact of the matter is that our own journalists here in the States, as well as the politicians and so forth, they do not report on these things. They know that it's happening in their districts, but you are not going to see in mainstream newspapers, and I'm even talking about our newspapers, so-called black-owned newspaper, you're not going to see a lot of these stories because the prison system is connected to a much bigger power base. So when it comes to the issue of our women, there is such a tremendous amount of rape inside of the prisons. And, of course, just like with the males, too. But you rarely, when you read issues about prisons, you rarely hear or see anything about women's prisons. So we have to make certain that, like our other brothers and sisters, be the voice for the voiceless and begin raising these issues about our sisters as well. And now going back to what Brother Philip was saying about what's coming up for the Men and Women March, of course, this year we're going to be hosting our 15th year anniversary, and with that beginning to launch our global movement. But this year there's going to be a Black Women's Social Justice, Self-Determination, and Solidarity Forum so that we can begin getting reports from all of the states, different issues that's relevant to our women and girls. We're getting so many reports about rape in our community, molestation, murder. Here in Philadelphia, a young girl, 23 years old, jumped by 3 males. She was pregnant. This happened in February of this year. And they killed her right in broad daylight with people standing there watching. So anytime we have now reduced ourselves to standing to watch 3 men jump on a female pregnant that weighs about 120 pounds, then obviously there's something not only wrong, we have reached a new low. So we're going to talk about what it is now as a community, as a family. We could be a bit more proactive in protecting and defending our women and girls also. That has to be a key part in what we do in bringing forward our people for liberation, for justice, and for freedom. We've got to make certain that our women and girls are an intricate part of that. So that's going to happen in October here in Philadelphia. But then I'm really pleased to announce that in December we'll be holding our first forum assembly in Africa that will begin to bring the Million Woman March into a global arena. And with that, we'll host our first international African Reconciliation, Reconnection, and Restitution Summit. So we'll certainly be keeping all of you abreast of what's going on with that. But at that particular assembly, we will be talking about, on an international level, the human rights violations of our people. And with that, what's going on here in the U.S. will not just fall on the ears of people here in the U.S. We're going to raise our voices about what's going on in the prison. What also has happened with what is known as eugenics, where our women were targeted to be sterilized during the 1950s and 60s. There's also lawsuits about that. I'm sure you've heard about that too, Brother Philip. So we're going to be talking and focusing on these issues and taking them into courts other than the courts that are here in the U.S. Because as the saying goes, how on earth can you take the crook to its own court and think you're going to get justice? So we now are ready to go international and let the world know and hear what our cries are, what our concerns are, but also the fact that we must have justice now.
How can people get in touch with you?
We can be reached at nationalmwm@aol.com. Of course, we do a radio program every Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and all you have to do is go to www.blogtalkradio.com/Empress-Chi. And we have a telephone number, and that's area code 267-636-3802. We now also have membership for the Million Woman Movement, and certainly volunteers are always needed and welcome.
Oh, well, we want to thank you so much, Sister Empress. We have about 3 minutes left in the show, and thank you for being with us, and we're going to have you back, and hopefully by then we'll have things together with regards to the technical advancements here. And we want to thank you again.
You know, we understand about the technical stuff, but
yeah,
you know what?
Nothing
can stop
they
us,
come
so it's all good.
That's right. That's right. That's the spirit we need in this revolution. So thank you so much for having us. And I have to say some other advertisements and some announcements before we cut off, okay? All right.
All right, give thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right, everyone. We want you're sticking with us and we sharpen it up as we go along. Please go to God'sWater7.com and scroll down to the PayPal button, make a donation to help us out. Also, we want to mention Chantel Davis. She was the sister that was recently arrested and, killed during the chase in Brooklyn. And we want to definitely have a moment of silence for her after we get off the line. Everyone say a prayer for her family. You know, they lost a daughter, you know, and we, of course, we want to mention all of the fallen brothers and sisters who fell at the hands of police brutality, you know, from Kenneth Chamberlain to Trayvon Martin to Ramarley Graham, all of them, you know, everybody who went down. Also, Rodney King's family, he recently died in a very strange way, you know, and we don't have time to get into that, but we want to say family. And we want to thank everyone for being on the show. And again, please tune in later on as we announce more shows. We've got to work on some of the kinks. So thank you so much, brothers and sisters, for being